Hi, this is my FPV goggles that I modded to the max. You can do these mods to any FPV goggle if you use a 5-volt regulator. Pick and choose the mods that you like and that you would like to do. I did this to my Quantum Cyclops version 1. These mods can also be done to the version 2. The version 1 is only $40 now. The first thing that I added is I added a power switch. And when the power switch is up, it's on. When it's down, it's off. And it's a lot more convenient than replacing or swapping out these connectors in the back. Just a simple power switch on, off. The next thing that I added was this little voltmeter. This tells me the voltage of the battery. I don't have to guess what the battery voltage is and how long I've been using it for. I can just look at this and see the battery voltage. It only cost $1.50 for the voltmeter and 60 cents for the power switch. For all the switches, they were all 60 cents each. Something else that I added the Eachine ProDVR. This is a good Pro DVR. It's an HD DVR. You can put I put a Class 10 SD card in there. I recommend a Class 10 SD card. It does true HD. It plays back through the screen, which is nice because when you're in the field and your quad goes down or your flying machine goes down, find it because you have footage of where it went down with this playback mode. Some people just use a DVR and just do record, and that kind of does and doesn't make sense because what a DVR is mainly used for is to find out where the quad is when you lose it. I guess if you're doing footage for YouTube, a DVR is nice because you can record that and have the DVR footage. Something else that I added this little camera here, and I drilled out the Q here, and I put a camera right there. And the camera is a really, really good camera. It's front-facing camera. It's 1280 by 960, which is HD. It has 0.5 lux, and the minimum lux is 0.1, so it's very, very good in low light. It's rated at 5 megapixels, and in low light it turns into a black and white image, like a night vision type goggle setup. It cost $8 for the camera. It's really cheap. Something else that I added, which you guys probably have one sitting around in your house, is I added a 2-cell LiFo. This cost $5. Something else that I will add is I will add a right-hand circular polarized antenna, mushroom type antenna, instead of this linear antenna. And mushroom polarized are good for, mushroom polarized. Circular polarized are good for this setup because you don't have to worry about it crashing into things like you do a quad. What I did is I looked at this and I said, okay, I have a screen, I have a nice good camera, and I have a DVR. What is that? That's a camcorder. So I put an added switch here. This switch here is to switch the DVR input to the camera. Now I have a camcorder, so I can take footage with this and have it set up so that I can use this device as a camcorder. Not only a goggle, but a real camcorder with a good camera. It's so good that I think I'm going to replace my hat cam. Let's get to the wiring and the diagrams. Let me sit in this chair. The first thing that is easy to wire up is a simple power switch. You take the power coming out, or the power from the battery, the red wire, and then you switch it to the power going to the receiver board. And it's just a simple, it's easy peasy. power switch. The second set of switches are used in conjunction. There's basically three inputs. There's the receiver output, the DVR output, and the camera output, all feeding the monitor. So the monitor can switch between these three devices. And the way you can, this switch switches from the receiver to the DVR. This switch switches from the camera to whatever that switch is set to, the receiver or the DVR. You can take the DVR input and wire it directly to the receiver output. Everything gets wired to the monitor. Normally it's wired from the receiver directly to the monitor. You need to cut that wire and add these two switches in to incorporate these three inputs. The third thing that I added, I said, okay, we're going to make this a camcorder. So I added a switch, and the switch switches between the receiver output and the camera video out. So now the DVR input can either be switched to the receiver output or the camera video output. What I also did, I took the camera audio output. This camera, where is it? Yeah, here it is. This camera has an audio output. The white wire is the audio output. You take that white wire and you wire it directly to the DVR input, and you have audio. Now what that gives you a camera, it gives you the true DVR experience, where also it's an advantage is that when you're in FPV mode, when the receiver is connected to the recorder, the camera audio is connected to the DVR input, so it can record your voice while it's doing the FPV footage. So you can do essentially a voice over with this. It has a little hole here for the microphone input, so the microphone can pick up sound. You can see the microphone right there. So it's mounted like that inside of the Cyclops, and the microphone's down here. So what you can do is that when you're flying, you can say things, oh, I'm in the northwest corner of the park, so that you know when it goes down, where it's at when it goes down. Something else that you can do is that you can add voice over your DVR footage for showing other people what the DVR footage is. The other part of the wiring is the power. I had to add 3 diodes for this type of goggle because the receiver output is 6 volts, and I wanted to drop that down to the DVR input or voltage input of plus 5 volts. Black to black for ground to ground. I used a 1N 4001 diode. You don't need those diodes if you choose to use a 5-volt regulator. I didn't have a 5-volt regulator. I had a 3.3. So that from the battery, you go to the inputs, and then from the outputs, you go to the camera. If you have a 5-volt, you can go to the camera and the DVR. You don't need to have these diodes. The diodes are not needed if you use a 5-volt regulator. Now with the Cyclops has a connector on the left side and a connector on the right side. The connector on the left side, the top 2 pins are plus 6 volts and ground. The very bottom pin is the video output. The other side, there's a little connector with 2 wires, red and black, and what they are your battery inputs. And you'll need to cut the red wire to do the switch and cut the video out to do the switches that I mentioned previously. Really good mod. Let me show you a little bit of what it can do. Let me power this guy up. Okay, I'll just have it face the box, and I'll have the camera. Now I have it face this way, so you can tell. That's the camera facing the box. The camera that I have in the front. Now I can switch that. Let me do my auto scan. And that is the 5.8 gigahertz signal. If I switch it back, that's my front facing camera. I can see my hand movement. I can do everything I need to do with my hands, controller and so forth. And then I have my FPV footage. The stuff in the bottom right there, the red circle and the time, or the elapsed time, is the DVR recorder. Putting that on-screen display. I have my on-screen displays for my DVR recorder. Press the right button. So it's all set up for HD. It's really good. Let me show you some footage that I have from the DVR, and I'll end it with that. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section, and thanks for watching. This is some FPV footage. I'm just holding the quad with my hand. See that the audio out is recording my voice through the camera, so I can do some commentary. This is the front-facing camera with audio. The parts list and pricing are in the comments below. Please click on the like button, comment, and subscribe.